Okay, let's unpack this. Because, imagine spending, literally millions of dollars on a state-of-the-art artificial intelligence system.
Right.
And it's designed to make your company lightning fast, right? But instead, you just watch your decision-making grind to an absolute halt. And worse, your best employees just start quitting in droves.
It's completely counterintuitive.
Exactly. But that is exactly this multi-billion-dollar paradox that's playing out in the modern workplace right now. So, welcome to the deep dive. We are looking at this incredibly frustrating reality for anyone trying to navigate corporate life today.
Yeah, and it's something so many people are feeling firsthand.
Because the promise was always that AI, processing millions of data points in real time, it would make everything smarter, more efficient. But the reality on the ground is just widespread burnout and, well, organizational gridlock.
It is a remarkable contradiction. And to really understand it, we're diving into Jonathan H. Westover's sweeping research on what happens when AI meets command and control structures.
Right, his book, or his research paper.
Exactly. And this isn't just based on, like, a handful of tech startups in Silicon Valley. We are looking at a foundation of 2 million workforce surveys.
Wait, 2 million?
2 million. And deeply involved interviews with over 50 leaders across all these major sectors. So it's incredibly comprehensive.
That is massive.
It really is. And what emerges from all that data, it completely reframes the issue. Because we have this bad habit of looking at failed AI integration as, well, a technology problem.
Right, like the IT department messed up.
Yeah, exactly. We assume the software is buggy or, the data lake is polluted or the implementation was just rushed. But the core reality, what Westover found, is that this is fundamentally an organizational design problem. We are trying to retrofit digital-era intelligence into industrial-era structures.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. Which, by the way, directly impacts you, the listener. Because whether you're a team leader staring at a shiny new AI dashboard, just wondering why your team is suddenly paralyzed, or, maybe you're a frontline worker feeling like you are being constantly surveilled by an algorithm, this deep dive is going to explain the actual mechanics of why your workplace feels so broken right now.
And, crucially, how the organizations that are actually getting this right are fixing it.
Yes. But before we can get to the solutions, we have to kind of diagnose the pathology here.
They do. Because AI and traditional management structures are essentially allergic to each other.
Allergic.
Yeah. Think about it. If you trace the history of the traditional command and control hierarchy, it was engineered for a very specific reality. Mostly military and industrial environments where information moved incredibly slowly.
Right, like telegraphs and paper reports.
Exactly. And because information was so slow, you needed standardized processes. You needed a highly rigid chain of command. Data slowly filtered up to the top, then a handful of senior leaders analyzed it, they made a strategic decision, and then those orders slowly filtered back down the chain.
Okay, I have an analogy for this. It's like taking a state-of-the-art 1,000-horsepower Formula One engine and dropping it straight into a wooden, horse-drawn carriage.
Oh, wow, yes. It is exactly what it is.
Because the carriage simply wasn't built for that kind of speed, right? Or that kind of continuous high-octane feedback. The moment you hit the gas, the sheer torque of that engine is just going to violently shake the wooden wheels and the chassis apart.
That is the exact mechanical failure happening in these companies. Because AI does not operate periodically. It operates continuously. It doesn't categorize neatly into, monthly reports.
Right.
It seeks dynamic, real-time patterns across vastly different contexts. So when you slam that hyperdynamic intelligence into a rigid command and control structure, the result is this phenomenon called digital Taylorism.
Digital Taylorism. Okay, Taylorism being that old school industrial revolution factory mindset, right? Like the guy with the stopwatch measuring every single second of a worker's motion on the assembly line to just squeeze out maximum efficiency.
That's the one.
Applying that to the modern digital workplace sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It is, and it's happening everywhere. Because instead of using intelligent systems to empower workers and, distribute authority, organizations are using them to intensify centralized control.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. Senior leaders are suddenly handed this real-time operational visibility into every single corner of the company. But the decision rights, meaning who actually gets to make the call, remain entirely unchanged.
So they see everything but don't let anyone else fix it.
Exactly. And the data reveals this staggering reality. 70% of organizations implementing AI systems report making minimal or zero changes to their decision-making structures.
70%.
70%. They buy the Formula One engine, like you said, but they insist on keeping the wooden wheels and holding on to the reins.
Okay, but wait, I want to push back on this a little bit based on the text. What about industries where, like, one mistake ruins lives or collapses the economy?
Right, the high-stakes sectors.
Yeah, like if I'm running a major multinational bank or a hospital network, I can't just have rogue tellers or floor nurses inventing rules on the fly to match whatever an AI suggests that morning. Don't I actually need that centralized, top-down control for compliance and legal reasons?
It's a fair question, and compliance is a genuine constraint. But the data shows it is largely an overstated excuse.
Oh, really? An excuse?
Yeah, an excuse used to avoid the pain of structural change. The real unspoken barriers here are existing power distributions. Executives simply do not want to give up their authority.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense.
And furthermore, legacy organizations have these deeply ingrained risk management cultures. They inherently favor centralized oversight over distributed autonomy. It just feels safer for a vice president to sign off on something, even if they are literally 3 steps removed from the actual problem.
Right, it's about control.
Exactly. It's about preserving a familiar power dynamic, not just meeting regulatory standards.
So that tension sets up the actual fallout we are seeing on the ground. We have the carrot shaking itself apart. Moving from the theory to the hard, quantifiable consequences, there's this thing you brought up, the illusion of speed.
Yes, the illusion of speed.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you listening, because you would assume that pumping real-time AI insights into a company accelerates action, right? But the decision throughput actually slows down during the first 12 to 18 months of AI deployment.
It completely grinds to a halt because information reaches the decision makers at light speed, but the approval processes and the accountability structures, they remain tethered to the 20th century.
Right.
So you don't get decision acceleration, you get information accumulation.
Right.
Executives become these massive, suffocating bottlenecks because they're suddenly overwhelmed with a fire hose of granular data that they still insist on personally approving.
Which brings up the retail inventory scenario from the research, because it highlights this disconnect perfectly. To think about an organization implementing AI-powered demand forecasting. In the companies that kept their centralized traditional structures, the AI would flag a shifting consumer trend. Say, a sudden spike in demand for a specific type of winter coat in the Northeast.
Right, a very localized event.
Exactly. But because the local store manager had no authority to act, that insight had to be routed up to regional, then up to national, reviewed by a merchandising committee, and eventually approved. And that process took an average of 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks.
Right. Meanwhile, organizations that actually distributed decision-making authority took 3 to 5 days to translate the exact same AI insight into stocked shelves.
And that operational lag, it carries a massive financial penalty. That delay in the centralized companies cost them 2 to 3% in pure profit margins.
It's just gone.
Gone. Because by the time the Central Committee approved the winter coats, the weather had changed or a competitor had already captured the market.
Wow.
But beyond the profit margins, we have to look at the psychological cascade of dysfunction this creates across all the human beings trapped in that broken carriage.
Yeah, let's talk about the people.
Starting at the very top, senior leaders are experiencing profound anxiety. They suddenly have dashboards giving them real-time visibility into every operational variation, every slight dip in productivity, every minor supply chain hiccup.
So they see a red blinking light on a screen and they physically cannot help themselves. They dive in to fix a microscopic issue that should be handled 3 levels down.
Exactly. And that constant neurotic intervention completely hollows out the middle managers. It really seems like middle management is experiencing the most acute existential crisis here.
Oh, for sure. Because historically, their entire job description was acting as a human router, right? Gathering data from the front line, aggregating it into a spreadsheet, and passing it up the chain. But now the AI does that instantly and more accurately.
Which leaves those middle managers with severe stress about their own obsolescence. If the algorithm handles the data routing, what is their value? They're trapped between these hyper-anxious executives micromanaging from above and a frontline they no longer need to monitor for data collection.
God, that sounds awful. And it sounds like the frontline workers are getting the absolute worst of both worlds, too.
They really are.
Because they have these incredibly powerful AI tools giving them high-level insights into their daily tasks, but they are still wearing the straitjacket of the old hierarchy. They see the solution on their screen, but they have zero authority to pull the trigger.
So they experience a severe reduction in autonomy, accompanied by intense algorithmic surveillance. The AI essentially becomes a de facto boss, dictating these next best actions that feel like rigid, unquestionable requirements rather than, helpful support.
So you are basically paying a premium to drive your best people away with a surveillance algorithm.
That's exactly what's happening. And the financial penalty for treating human beings this way is stark. Organizations operating in the highest quartile of micromanagement intensity see a 25 to 30% higher voluntary turnover rate among their high-performing employees.
Wait, 30% higher turnover?
Yes. And replacing a specialized knowledge worker costs 100 to 150% of their annual salary.
That is wild. So if the old model is breaking and hemorrhaging talent and money, the critical turning point here is understanding how successful organizations are restructuring to actually harness this digital intelligence.
Right. How do we fix the carriage?
Exactly. And it seems like it requires a fundamental shift in how we view leadership itself. So to use another analogy, it sounds like moving from conducting a marching band to coaching a soccer team.
Oh, I like that. Break that down.
Well, in a marching band, every single step, every note, every formation is pre-planned, mapped out, and controlled by the conductor on the podium, right? If someone steps out of line, the whole formation fails.
Right.
But a soccer coach operates entirely differently. The coach sets the strategy, defines the boundaries of the field, and then steps back. When the whistle blows, the players have to read the game, make the passes, and adapt to the opponent in real time. The coach cannot run onto the field and kick the ball for them.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. That shift from the podium to the sideline captures the essence of intent-based leadership.
Intent-based leadership.
Yeah. And this framework actually originates from military theory, specifically U.S. Navy submarine operations under Captain David Marquet.
Oh, submarines, okay.
Yeah, in an intent-based model, leaders define the strategic intent and the operational boundaries, but they fiercely delegate tactical decisions to the people closest to the problem. Submarines are the perfect incubator for this. Because when you are submerged and physically cut off from communication with command headquarters, you cannot wait for a message to slowly filter up and down a chain of command during a crisis.
Right, you'd sink.
Exactly. The person looking through the periscope or monitoring the sonar has to have the authority to make the call.
But translating that to a corporate environment, that requires massive intentionality. You can't just tell people, hey, you're empowered, and walk away.
No, definitely not. Look at W.L. Gore, the manufacturing firm. Their senior leaders spend 30 to 40% of their time simply communicating context.
Just communicating context.
Yes. They are in meetings making granular choices about supply chain logistics. They are constantly broadcasting the overarching strategy, the current market conditions, and the ultimate goals. They are building the mental models so that when a frontline team faces an unexpected problem, they have the exact same context the CEO would have, allowing them to make a localized decision safely and effectively.
Okay, that actually perfectly addresses my earlier question about highly regulated industries, because the research brings up Handelsbanken in Sweden, right?
Yes, the banking sector.
Which is incredibly heavily regulated, yet they utilize radical decentralization. They do not centralize all loan approvals at a massive corporate headquarters. Instead, branch managers are equipped with AI analytics to make local lending and pricing decisions.
Right. The AI is a tool for them, not a boss.
Exactly. The AI sets the guardrails, clearly established risk parameters and compliance checks. But within those boundaries, the local manager makes the call based on their human understanding of that specific community or client.
So the AI provides enterprise-wide visibility without demanding central approval for every action.
Right. And the result is that Handelsbanken has outperformed industry averages in profitability and customer satisfaction for decades.
It's a brilliant model.
But wait, if the senior leaders are focusing entirely on broadcasting the boundaries, and the frontline workers are suddenly empowered to make the actual tactical decisions using AI guardrails, we have to look at the people caught in the middle.
Ah, the middle managers.
Yeah. We talked about their existential dread earlier. So in this new soccer team model, are they just obsolete? Do we just flatten the organization entirely and fire all the middle managers?
This is such an important question, and it requires a critical paradigm shift. AI absolutely does not eliminate middle management. It actually forces a renaissance.
As a renaissance.
Yes. Middle managers must transition from being information processors to becoming judgment facilitators and coaches.
Meaning they basically put down the spreadsheets and start focusing entirely on human development and complex problem solving. But what does that actually look like on, say, a random Tuesday afternoon? If a manager isn't just checking off tasks on a timeline, what are they actually doing?
Deloitte provides a brilliant case study on this. During a massive enterprise AI rollout, they fundamentally redesigned their project manager roles. Instead of managing resource allocation, which, let's be honest, the AI can optimize far better than a human, managers focused on developing their team's analytical judgment.
Okay, how so?
Well, imagine a scenario where the AI flags a major client as a high churn risk because their software usage dropped. The old manager would just ask, did you call the client and log it in the CRM?
Very task-oriented.
Right. But the new coaching-focused manager sits down and says, the AI is suggesting we intervene heavily here. But based on your personal relationship with this client and your recent conversations, do you think this is a false alarm or should we escalate?
Oh, wow. That is a completely different conversation.
It changes everything.
The manager is using the AI's output as a training tool to sharpen the employee's critical thinking, rather than just treating the AI's output as an unquestionable mandate.
Yes, and the results speak for themselves. Deloitte saw a 15 to 20% increase in client satisfaction and significantly better retention of top performers under these coaching-focused managers.
And then there's ThoughtWorks, right, the technology consulting firm. They take this so seriously that they explicitly invest 80 hours a year training their managers specifically in coaching capabilities.
80 hours a year just on coaching.
Yeah, they are not training them on how to use a new software suite. They are dedicating massive resources to training them on how to develop human judgment, active listening, and empathy.
Which is inspiring. But we have to address the practical concern here.
Right, the chaos factor.
Exactly. If everyone on the front line is making localized decisions and managers are just acting as empathetic coaches, how do companies prevent total chaos? If you have thousands of employees making independent calls, how does the entire enterprise not just splinter into 1,000 different contradictory directions?
Right.
That is where the concepts of intelligent governance and sensing capacity come into play. You invert the traditional control mechanism. Instead of AI acting as a rigid gatekeeper that approves or denies individual actions, AI is used to monitor aggregate patterns across the entire organization.
Okay, so less did employee X do task Y correctly, and more, what is the overall ecosystem doing?
Precisely. Let's look at Zara, the global retailer. Store managers have broad autonomy over their local inventory. Corporate headquarters does not approve individual store orders. Instead, the AI monitors the aggregate patterns of those autonomous decisions.
Interesting.
So if one store in London suddenly stops ordering a specific jacket, the AI ignores it. It's likely a localized weather event or a local demographic shift. The local manager handles it. But if the AI senses that 50 different stores across 3 different continents all simultaneously stop ordering that jacket, it flags that aggregate pattern as a strategic issue for corporate to solve. Maybe the zipper is defective, or the global trend died overnight. The local manager retains total autonomy over their store, but the enterprise maintains strategic coherence and catches systemic flaws instantly.
Man, that is smart. And Hair, the massive appliance manufacturer, they took this concept to an almost unbelievable level, didn't they? They completely dismantled their traditional corporate structure and broke the entire company into 2,000 independent micro-enterprises.
2,000. And the only way that doesn't collapse into total anarchy is through a shared digital platform. Those 2,000 microenterprises operate like internal startups. They have their own profit and loss responsibilities and the authority to sense changing customer needs and adapt their products instantly.
But they're all connected.
Right, they all plug into a centralized AI platform for shared services like human resources, finance, and supply chain logistics. The AI provides the invisible infrastructure that allows 2,000 autonomous units to operate without stepping on each other's toes.
So really, visibility is the crux of the leadership challenge here. When a leader is handed an all-seeing AI dashboard, they face a fork in the road. Visibility-enabled micromanagement or visibility-enabled confidence?
Visibility-enabled confidence. That's a great phrase.
And Microsoft under Satya Nadella is the textbook example of choosing confidence. He famously pushed a learn-it-all culture rather than a know-it-all culture. Managers at Microsoft use AI visibility not to punish operational variations or hunt down mistakes, but to ask coaching questions and promote rapid learning.
Right. It's a completely different mindset.
Exactly. If a team tries a new approach and the AI metrics show it failing, it isn't a punishable offense. It's an opportunity for the manager to help the team dissect what went wrong and pivot.
And operating that way requires a total overhaul of how organizations reward their people. Because you cannot demand that your employees act like autonomous, experimenting, collaborative soccer players, and then grade them on a rigid, standardized bell curve designed for assembly line workers.
Right, the old performance reviews.
Adobe recognized this structural friction early on. They outright killed the traditional annual performance review. They completely replaced it with continuous feedback loops and peer evaluations, heavily rewarding collaborative intelligence and team adaptability rather than just isolated individual output.
Because in an AI-native organization, value emerges from the network's collective ability to learn and adapt, not from blind compliance to a static plan. So pulling all these threads together for you, the listener, the ultimate takeaway is crystal clear. Artificial intelligence is not a magic IT wand. You can simply wave over a rigid corporate ladder and expect miracles. If you want the actual benefits of digital intelligence, the speed, the adaptability, the explosive innovation, you have to do the grueling work of building an environment of distributed sense-making.
You need deep psychological safety.
Yes, and you need structural flexibility. Just look at a tech giant like Tencent. They undergo constant modular reorganizations based on shifting market needs. It isn't a panic-induced crisis for them. It is just their standard operating procedure.
It's just how they work.
Right. So I challenge you to look closely at your own workplace tomorrow. When you log in, look at the tools you are using. Are the new AI systems in your office being used to double down on old school control? Are they being used to watch you more closely and dictate your every move? Or are they being used to distribute authority, pushing decision-making power down to the people actually doing the work?
The shift toward decentralized authority is clear. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us grappling with a profound, almost philosophical implication regarding the future of management.
Okay, what's that?
Well, we have established that the survival of the human middle manager depends on abandoning data crunching to become an empathy-driven, human-centric coach.
Right.
But AI is not standing still. As these systems rapidly develop advanced behavioral prediction capabilities and highly sophisticated simulated emotional intelligence, what happens when the algorithm actually becomes a better, more patient, more responsive coach than the human being?
Oh, wow.
Will the human manager need to be structurally redefined all over again? Or is there an unbreakable ceiling to algorithmic empathy that a machine can never cross?
Man, that is the kind of existential question that keeps us up at night. And it perfectly illustrates why you cannot just slap a Formula One engine onto a wooden carriage and hope for the best. You have to be willing to rebuild the entire vehicle from the ground up. Keep questioning the structures around you, keep pushing for environments that value genuine human judgment, and we will see you on the next deep dive.